What's up guys, Intellitech Studios here, and today we'll be doing a full in-depth review on Sebo's latest upright. This right here is the Sebo Automatic X7 Premium Pet Boost. And this particular machine was just released over the last year or so to replace the outgoing Sebo Automatic X4. Although that machine is still available and might stay on the market for a little bit longer, the X5 was in fact replaced by the X8, which those are simply sort of longer, well, wow, I could not finish that sentence. Those are longer versions of the X7 and X4 that have an L-shaped nozzle that sticks out, so you get a little bit more of a wider cleaning path and the ability for that nozzle to fit underneath tighter spaces. And it's basically the exact same main brush roll, but it has an extra little piece on the end that you can replace as well. And those models, while they do exist and a lot of people do like them, I'm personally much more fond of the very basic square models, as I don't really find that L-shaped nozzle does anything but get in the way, at least for me. So this review will primarily focus on the X7, but besides that one little difference, it is applicable to the X8 as well. So this particular machine is an updated version of the automatic X4 that I mentioned previously, but it has a few changes, especially if your X4 is not the boost model. Now there is a version of the X4 that's in this identical color scheme also with the boost button, but that version does have the one similarity being the boost button. But if your X4 does not have the boost button, as most of them don't, then it'll be quite a big upgrade from this specific model. Now, I believe there is a version of the X7 without the boost button, but this one is the one that does, and I highly recommend getting one with the boost button if you can. But one of the nice things about the X7 is that they actually did fix a lot of the issues that the X4 previously had in terms of the automatic adjustment mechanism. Because what this machine does is it'll automatically adjust itself up and down. And I don't mean automatic in the sense that other brands will have where it just simply sits on the top of the carpet. It's actually an automatic adjustment. It'll move the head up and down depending on the resistance that it gets from the carpet or floor surface. Now, I say floor surface, but in reality, you should only use this on carpets. You don't want to use this on bare floors, as unfortunately there is no brush roller shut-off switch, despite the fact this machine is $1,100. There is no brush roller shut-off. The only way the brush roller shuts off is if you get something jammed in it, and this light illuminates. That will shut off the entire machine, including the brush, but it won't shut off the brush roll independently. If you want that functionality, you're going to have to get the Sebo Dart or Sebo Felix in an upright. On the front of the machine, we have a few different LEDs. Now, on my particular model, we do have the button that we push to activate the boost function, and when you push that while the machine is reclined, it'll force the brush roll down a few extra notches to dig deeper into carpets. Although, one complaint that I have with that, and just this machine in general, that I'll talk about more when we look at the brush roll, is that it doesn't fit into the actual housing very securely, so as a result it can tend to rattle even with a brand new brush. Right here we have a down arrow and an up arrow. These lights will illuminate to show whether the cleaner head is lifting itself up or down. And whenever you are done vacuuming, it's recommended that you put the machine in the upright position, so that way it's able to actually move the entire cleaner head up back to the position where it's off the floor, so it doesn't scrape any furniture or get caught on anything. We also have a bank of LED headlights right here to illuminate the front of the nozzle, which is definitely a nice upgrade. And this entire nozzle, as you can see, is a bit more square and has a bumper that goes around the entirety of the nozzle, so you don't have to worry about this scratching your furniture or the vacuum itself getting scratched as badly. But as you can see, this can get gouged up pretty bad. Now, there is one other big difference between this and the previous X4 series, and that you'll find on the back. There's two different things that changed also between the X4 and the X7, besides the updates to the front of the cleaner head. We have this pedal release right here, which is plastic now instead of metal, and it does not have the ability to select a switch in order to lift the cleaner head up off carpets. On the previous X4, you had a little switch you could turn to that allow you to move the cleaner head up when you have the machine reclined a certain distance. This does not have that function, so reclining it only allows you to go all the way flat. There's no way to pop up the cleaner head to go onto a rug or a transition strip. But the nice thing about that is that it's not really nice because it's a feature that's been taken away. But at the very least, if they were going to lock it in one of these modes, they locked it in the mode where you can go all the way flat. Now, my furniture is just too tall for this to really be a useful feature, but when you have a machine, or when you have a bed or a couch that's a little bit further up off the floor than mine is, you can actually get pretty much all the way underneath it with one of these, as opposed to a lot of bagless machines where the cyclones will get in the way of that, especially something like a Dyson upright. So there are some advantages there to this design. It's a lot more sleek and slim, which allows it to fit underneath some more items despite being a full-size vacuum. You also have a change in the HEPA filter. Now I'll show you the pre-motor filter in the bag later on, but right now we can see the HEPA filter, which is the exhaust filter, is different on this model. Instead of there being a little door on the front, you squeeze these two tabs, this lifts up, pops out, you have this little tab that you pop out, and we have this little filter bag. It is a filter, but it looks like a bag. So the idea is that it can actually last a lot longer than a standard filter because it has a lot more surface area on the inside. And it's also HEPA grade this time, which is really nice. So, and that slides actually all the way in. Trying to line this up is a little bit tricky, but the tab allows you to snap it back in place. There we go. It can be a little tricky to get, and sometimes I don't feel like it really lines up correctly, but it does line up. And then you put that on and click those back into place. So it's quite nice. That little red tab that you saw earlier, I do kind of worry about that wearing out and then the filter not being able to clip in properly, but time will tell if that actually becomes an issue. So now that we've covered all the differences between the X4 and the X7, we'll do a main overview of the machine next. So starting from the top of the machine, we can see we have our 40-foot cord that comes right out of the handle and often gets caught on the wheels. And since this comes out of the handle, you don't have to worry about a cord clip or anything like that. And one nice feature is if you ever tear up this cord, you can actually replace it as part of the handle assembly very easily. So if the cord gets chewed up or the switch gets messed up and you don't want to actually splice in a new cord, you can actually flip this little lever that says closed. You can flip this over to open, and now handle pops right out. Very easy. And whenever you're done, or whenever you're replacing it or assembling it, push this in until you can't see the red anymore. And now it's in all the way. So we just flip this back over to the closed position, and now it's in all the way. Now it's not going anywhere. So that's a really nice feature. Of course, it is a little bit more wasteful than replacing just a cord or just an actual power switch. But if it's that versus throwing away the entire machine, that's a very, very nice feature. It makes this machine not only super easy to repair, but also a lot more accessible to repair, even for the end user or for a business. So that's a nice feature. Right on the handle, we have we have a motorcycle in the background, and we also have the afterthought that is the dusting brush. Now, this dusting brush is excellent. It's shaped really nicely. The bristles are nice and soft, and it has a nice little swivel neck. It's a very good dusting brush. But as you can tell, they have it clipped to the handle instead of actually molded into the back of the machine, and it doesn't even color match. It would be really nice if they actually had a little section right here where this could fit on, very similar to the way that other machines have done it. So it would have been nice to have that sort of redone on this model, since there is likely space for it. But for whatever reason, they decided not to do that. I understand the filter is, on this side where the bag is. Sorry for my fingers, but I still feel like they could have easily fit this right there and then saved a little hook on the handle for some other sort of attachment. But that being said, it is still on board, so that's definitely more than you can say for the Sebo Dart or Sebo Felix, which those don't have any wands on board. This one does have a wand on board, and those you have to pick the two attachments that you can have on board. You can't have all three. So this is an advantage over that machine, even though there's some disadvantages in terms of swivel neckness, of which this does not have. So when you want to vacuum, you're going to press this orange pedal right here, pull the machine back, and you're going to press this button right here to turn on the machine. It has a soft start motor, so it will take a little bit to turn on, but it's very nice and quiet. Once you turn it on in the reclined position, you'll actually see it adjust up and down to your carpet, and you'll actually hear it engage. And you'll also see the LED light turn on as well. So it's a very nice machine to use. So as you can see, this machine is decently quiet. It's not the quietest machine in the world, but it's definitely quieter than just about anything else you'll find on the mainstream market, at least. So there is that. And of course there's the soft start motor, which sounds quite nice. And as you can see, whenever I recline the machine, you can see the actual LEDs activating as the cleaner head raised and lowered itself to my carpet. And you could also see the check bag light as well. And if you jam the brush roller, that light would illuminate as well and shut off the machine. There's also the boost button that I mentioned, which you can push while you have the machine reclined, and that will light up green to let you know it's activated, and that will have it move down into your carpets to dig even deeper. Although one of the reasons why I don't do that is because this machine tends to rattle a lot, and that's pretty much probably my biggest complaint with this machine that was not addressed from the X4, is this brush roll is very easy to remove. But as a side effect, it's so easy to remove that it doesn't really hold in all that steady. As you can see, me just barely touching this brush roll and it slides out of the mechanism that it's locked into. It's not really locked in at all. Now, whenever I press this button that you see right here, pushing this button allows this end cap to pop off with a bearing block. And now we can grab the brush roll and pull it straight out. Now, when it's locked in like this, as you can see, it's locked in. But I just barely turn this and it pulls out. Again, it's easy to remove. The problem is that it's just a bit too easy to remove. And I feel like if this locking mechanism was a bit more robust, it might actually solve the rattling problem. But unfortunately, that still has not been addressed. And this is a new brush roll, so there shouldn't be any issues with something like that. I have this problem on my X5, and I was told the problem was as a result of my brush roller, and it was not. Replacing the brush roll did the exact same thing, and even this new unit still does the exact same thing. So I wish Sebo would tighten up the tolerances on this a little bit and make this lock in a bit more securely, so that way we don't hear the rattling of this connector not being sealed properly, as it so often is on these units. But if you can live with that little bit of rattling noise and how it just kind of doesn't feel right, the actual cleaning performance of this is excellent. And as you can see, with how easy this brush is to remove, you can easily pull all the hair off of it, which is very important considering this does not have any sort of anti-tangle technology. But it's very easy to just pull the hair off this with your fingers. I don't recommend using a blade because there's no real grooves and this can get scratched up. And this brush roll is actually dishwasher safe, at least top rack dishwasher safe. So you can sanitize it in the dishwasher if you so choose, but definitely clean the hair off of it first. We also have access to this little chamber right here, and this little orange flap allows us to peek underneath and see if anything gets stuck in there. So that's a really nice feature. And whenever we're done with this, we can take this brush roll and slap it in. We take the hollow end, line it up with that little jack right there, which, as you can see, also does get tangled up with hair. And we're going to put this back in. And we're going to twist it a quarter turn counterclockwise, and that locks it into place. And now we can take our bearing block, line it up. As you can see, there's a lot of play in this. We're going to line this up right here. Well, actually, there we go. So we're going to line it up right there and slap it on. And there we go. Again, you can see it very easily pops out of where it's lined up. When you turn it on, it does catch it back on, but it just feels like a mechanism that's going to wear out. Although, in its defense, I've seen 20-year-old Sebos where the brush rolls don't feel any floppier than they do out of the box. So I guess that little bit of play there is what helps give it tolerance. And if that's the case, then I suppose the feature's all right. But from a user perspective, it does feel like a little bit of a design oversight. The fact that it just doesn't really lock in very securely. That being said, it only creates that little bit of noise. If you ignore the noise or don't care, the actual performance and results is excellent from this machine. It's a great carpet cleaner. It's far better than the previous X series, as it actually digs deeper into the carpet. And this actually gives the G series a much better run for its money, which it really should considering how much more expensive it is. And I actually think it cleans better than the Felix as well, but they both clean very, very well, and they're both very close to each other. So that is that. We have a single wheel right here that lets you adjust the height, and two rear wheels that are rubber coated and built very, very well. So no complaints there. It's very easy to keep clean, and there's no belts to worry about either. Yes, a belt does exist, but it's a lifetime belt. It's designed to actually last the lifetime of the machine. So it's definitely pretty good. And unlike a lot of other lifetime belts from companies like Dyson on the older DC07 models, this actually does seem to last a lifetime. My previous X5, which that machine was from 2004, so it was upwards of 20 years old, the belt on it was still good, even though the actual motor that adjusts the height adjustment was clearly a little bit worn from multiple years of use commercially. So no complaints there. We also have this strange stair cleaning handle, which a lot of old Hoover Elites used to have. It's not a very practical solution. It's more so just another way to carry the machine, so I don't recommend actually using that while it's running. But I suppose you could if you want to risk dropping this down the stairs. Which, I mean, it would survive, but you might put a hole in your wall, so I guess do that at your own risk. So, we also have this little button right here that lets us separate the main body from the head unit if you need to clear any clogs or anything like that, or even if you want to wash this entire top portion in the sink if it leaks any dust out, which unfortunately these do tend to do. I know that's controversial to say, but from my experience it is true, but we'll get to that in a sec. So, on the back of the machine, further up, we have a lower cord hook, which is also a big handle that swivels. This is your main carrying handle when you carry the unit. So you grab it from right here. It's not very big, it's not padded very well, but you can carry the machine like that. And for short periods of carrying, it's perfectly fine. And as you can see, this is also our lower cord hook that swivels up to allow us to pull the cord off from the bottom. And the 40 feet of cord is very, very nice. It seems to be built rather well. It is susceptible to the occasional tears, so it's not a grounded prong, but this is the domestic machine anyway, so it's not designed to have a super heavy commercial cord on it, so I suppose that is fine. One other cool thing about the hose and just the general design of this machine is that, as you can see, I can easily pull the hose out of the wand, and the reason why is because when the wand is on the machine properly, which I'll show you this in a sec, you can easily pull the hose out of the machine to put on any tools. Although if you do this while the machine's on, it does fight you quite a bit, so probably do this when the machine's off. You put any attachment on and use it for your upholstery or corners or whatever, but keep in mind this is a very high mounted hose, which does mean that the machine is very prone to tipping over, so keep that in mind. If you're vacuuming above the floor, it's totally fine, although the reach is very poor. There isn't really much reach you get with this machine. So it's not very versatile in terms of the hose usage, but there is a extra hose you can buy separately that gets you a much longer reach. Though it is an added expense and is very reminiscent of the late 90s, early 2000s Maytag wind tunnels. So I suppose that is an option, and the Victories as well. So if you don't want just a little hose, you can slap this right in here, and it will lock in. Pull this wand out, and it grabs hold of the hose, and now you have a nice little wand with a little mini version of the main handle. And this gets you a lot more reach, but it's still not quite enough. But if you're just getting down into corners and stuff, especially with the crevice tool on, which is quite long, you get a pretty decent amount of reach. So for basic stuff, this is just fine. You have to remember this is mainly designed to be a commercial machine first and foremost, and a lot of hotels aren't going to have super high ceilings, so that's to be expected. That's also why the dusting brush is an afterthought, because for a lot of commercial environments, dusting brushes are not exactly something that is used, which probably explains why so many hotels I go to are covered in several layers of dust, so maybe that should change. But anyways, whenever you put this wand back on the machine, you want to make sure that you put it in a way that it clears this little tab right here. There's this little tab that pushes on this button, and you have to push it down until it's flush with the main body. If you don't do that, then it's not going to push that tab out of the way, and you're not going to be able to remove your hose. And it also won't seal properly either. So you want to make sure you have that on all the way. Sometimes people will put it in front of it or behind it. Make sure that's on properly, and you shouldn't have any problems. And also, you can very easily squeeze this and access the hose from the other end if you need to pull this off for clog removal or whatever else. As you can see, it's easier said than done trying to pull this off with one hand. They can easily pop this off by squeezing these two tabs, and that allows you to pop this off in order to either replace it with a longer hose, check for clogs, or if you somehow get it split, you can replace it pretty easy and slap the new one right back in. So that's quite nice. Now, on the subject of the other two attachments, because I know I mentioned this dusting brush earlier, the crevice tool is really nice. It's nice and long, and it gets into crevices. And what else really is there to say? It works. And this upholstery tool. This upholstery tool is not great. A lot of people tend to like these, but I find that only having the one bristle in the front does make it a bit harder to clean up pet hair, and it does struggle with pet hair quite a lot. And the stuff that does actually get picked up by this, the pet hair, is very difficult to actually vacuum back off. You have to pretty much pick it off with your fingers while washing it, and it's not a great experience. So this tool does pretty decently, but I've seen better, especially for the price. To access the bag on this machine, you grab this little lever that has a bag on it. I know, shocking, right? And you pull this up, and that allows you to pop off this. And there is your bag. It attaches right to a docking mechanism that is right on the bag door. And this door also disallows you from closing up the machine without a bag in place. As you can see, it uses the genuine Sebo HEPA bags. There are aftermarket bags available that a lot of people do not recommend, but I actually find the genuine Sebo bags tend to leak a lot of dust. Not a lot of dust, but enough that I really would like to see better performance. These tend to get discolored very frequently, and I find a lot of hair tends to get on the outside of the bag for some reason. I'm not sure if that's a result of the bag or a result of the docking mechanism, but considering I've seen bags that I've literally paid $1 a piece for have less leakage after the same amount of usage, it definitely is a little bit disappointing. But one thing that's really nice about these bags is they're great for airflow, they last a really long time, and they're actually top fill. I know I mentioned that the hose being on the top is a little bit annoying when it comes to using the tools, but the one advantage to that is that your bag actually fills up on the top, so you can use the entire bag before you throw it away. And since this filter, which has a little tab right there to keep you from running the vacuum without it, is actually the length of the bag chamber, it means even if your bag is filled up to about here, you still get a good amount of airflow through the filter. So that's a really smart design choice. Also, whenever you buy new bags, you get little caps that clip onto the end of the inside here that allows you to seal it up and throw it away whenever you're done without any dust leaking out. That's pretty nice. Sometimes dust does get stuck right up here, as you can see, and those are instances where you will unfortunately have to touch the dirt in order to get that out, but it's not nearly as much as with a bagless vacuum. So while there is the added running cost of using bags, and of course it's a lot more environmentally wasteful, especially with this plastic collar, which I'm not a fan of, at the very least you don't touch the dirt as much. So if you have allergies or you just don't want to deal with cleaning up your vacuum, just want to throw it away, pop a new one in and be done, this is a really good solution. And whenever you're done, you line this up, make sure the bag isn't being pinched on the sides, which can happen. Push it back on, and as you push this lever down, it doesn't really snap, but it does push back on. It raises the bag up to this collar, so that way it seals. And that right there is how you change the bag on your Sebo. Well, I guess I didn't really show you how to change the bag, but just grab those tabs and pop it out. I'll do a separate maintenance guide on this machine showing you how to do everything on this machine. Right now we're focused on the usability and whether or not this machine is worth it to buy, which is the final and most burning question about the Sebo Automatic X7. The Sebo X7 is very, very expensive. Currently it's $1,100 right now, and that's a lot of money. That is not chump change. So as much as this review is quite long-winded, it's also very in-depth. I'm the only person doing a review on this machine on YouTube at this exact moment who's not trying to actively sell you one. I have no skin in the game of whether or not you buy one of these, so I'm not incentivized to try to pressure you into buying one, especially if you show up in a storefront where I have a million of these on display. I am talking to you as a consumer, one who's used so many different vacuums, who's repaired so many different vacuums, and has many, many vacuums. So I know what's good and what's bad, and I also know when other vacuum reviewers are not exactly being super truthful with their data. This particular machine is excellent, and for the price, it better be, frankly. There are still some things that I would like to see changed and improved, and things that I wish had been improved on this model. The main thing being more onboard attachment options. I would have loved to have seen an onboard wand and an onboard turbo brush. I also would have liked to see, well, that brush roll rattle issue be fixed and a brush roller shutoff, which Mila clearly proved you can do. Mila proved on the U1 that you can add a little switch right below here, just move this down a bit. In fact, I mentioned earlier, put this on the back. So put this on the back, make this handle a little bit longer, and put another switch with a brush roll icon on it, so people know that 1 has it on and 0 has it off. That would be a great improvement to this design, and that alone would make this the closest to a no compromises vacuum pretty much ever. At least if you don't care about a swivel neck. So if those three things had happened, then I would say, yes, this is pricey, but it's worth it. But because it doesn't have a brush roll shutoff, for me, I really can't justify this machine because you can't really use it on bare floors. And since the tools also leave a bit to be desired as well, it's definitely a hard pill to swallow in terms of price. Now here's the thing though. It's great on carpets, it's built incredibly well. Despite the machine being expensive, the actual repair and expendable parts are very reasonable. And since you can buy these from a lot of your local vacuum stores, there's that kind of local relationship that you can build with a local business where you can't really get whenever you buy it from Walmart, which, sad to say, is how the majority of people buy their machines. So I wouldn't pay $1,100 for it, but if you don't really prioritize bare floor cleaning performance, or you're willing to swap out the brush roll with the soft roller that does a little bit better on bare floors with the green bristles, then I could definitely say it's a solid vacuum. And if you want a machine that will last a long time, that filters well, that cleans great, that you don't have to think about, that you can just use and be confident that it will last for many, 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 many years with very little user input, this is one of the best machines you can get if you have the deep pockets to subsidize it. So this machine does get a recommendation with those few asterisks. Now for me personally, if it's my money, I would rather spend a third of the price and pick up a Dyson Ball Animal 3 on sale, but that's just me. And there are definitely a lot of things I've complained about with that machine as well, so it's not me just picking on either brand. Both are excellent machines. This one, I think, though, objectively is a little bit better because of the build quality improvements. But, hi Ruby, but of course that is your choice to make. In fact, I will be doing a video soon on comparing the Sebo X7 to the Dyson Ball Animal 3, and possibly another video comparing the Ball Animal 3 to the Shark Stratos as well. So if you want to see those videos, be sure to subscribe to Intellitech Studios, and you will see those very, very soon. But personally, for my money, if I want a machine that's built well, easy to maintain, and is much, much cheaper and has easy to find parts, as much as it hurts people to say, there's other machines I would probably pick instead of the Sebo, at least if it's my money, because spending 10 times the price is a bit hard for me to justify since I know how to make one of these cheap machines last 20 years, just like with the Sebo. But if you're not in that camp, the Sebo Automatic X7, again, if you have the deep pockets, is a solid choice, and I do, in fact, wholeheartedly recommend this. As long as you are aware of what you're getting yourself into, and as long as you don't refinance your house to afford it, because frankly, that's just not worth it. If you're not financially stable enough to afford a $1,000 vacuum, then don't buy one. And the vast majority of people, let's be honest, are not. And that's why these machines don't sell very well, even though they're very, very good. Anyways, enough of that rambling. That's probably not relevant. This particular review is now concluded. This was Intellitech Studios signing out with the full in-depth review of the Sebo Automatic X7. My apologies for this review being a little bit late. I recorded it last night, but it didn't turn out very well, so I wanted to redo it. And I'm much happier with the results of this review compared to the last one. So I hope you enjoyed. Anyways, this is Intellitech Studios signing out for probably the third time at this point. I'll see you guys in the next video, and I hope you all have a good one. Peace.